Once more, welcome to another educative moment with the Wicked Essays, the host of your Education and Career Quadrant. Education and Career Quadrant is a program that comes to your airways from Triple E Counseling Services. Triple E Counseling Services is a registered counseling organization located at number 24 IBB Avenue in the city of Uyo, Akwa Ibom State. We have our presence on the internet. You can always get to us on our social handles and follow what we do. We are primarily a counseling and human development organization. We work with schools, we work with individuals, professionals, entrepreneurs. We work with virtually wherever human beings are found that needs our services, that need to understand what we can do to help them maximize their resources, their potential. As a tagline, we are offering counseling and support services for you to achieve your goal excellently, optimally, and then have life properly fulfilled. Because that's the essence of being here on this side of eternity. We today want to look into the second part of what we're handling in this series. We've been trying to let the society understand what professional counseling is all about and the necessity for the society to take advantage. Because when people don't know about something, it is very, very difficult for them to take advantage. And like the late Miles Monroe would always say, when the purpose of a thing is not known, abuse becomes the normal. When people don't understand what we do as counselors, you can see that quacks, those who are not certified or not trained, they jump into the boat and then people may not get what they need to really have. So we are a helping profession. Who is a counselor? A counselor is one who is trained in the field of education and counseling and psychology that has to do with behavior and human learning. And before you can actually call yourself a counselor professionally, you need to have a minimum of a master's degree in any country of the world. That is when you can be admitted into private practice. If you have a first degree, yes, you can still work as a counselor, but not to be called that privilege to be called a professional counselor because you need to understand what it is to work with people for them to make decisions. So it's a critical service. It's just like medicine. One mistake, life is done. So the same thing in decision making. If you're not able to take care of what you need to do, there is a problem. So that is why counseling is very, very important. So then we'll be looking at the second aspect, the process of counseling or the stages of counseling. As we enumerated last week, counseling has stages. Just like when you want to cook, first of all, have to get the list, get all the condiments, and prepare them before you get to cooking. So when you want to deliver a counseling service, there are stages. The first stage is what we call relationship establishment, or building relationship. We talk about rapport, and that is when you talk about the first encounter, the referral process. How did you get to know about the client? How did the client get to know about you as a solution provider? After that, we look at problem identification and exploration. That is the diagnosis. The third one is planning for problem solution. That is the therapy design. After diagnosis, you look at the prognosis, like it mentioned. What is the possibility that I can help this person overcome this challenge? For example, a student is having issues with learning, As a counselor, when you are able to look into it, this is what we need to do. Good study habit, note taking, reading, and all of that. The fourth one is application of the solution or the therapy, and then termination. And then you can add the fifth one, follow up, because you want to know how effective your engagement with the client was. These five stages, if you look at some other books, some other professionals may break them into about seven. You have relationship building, you have the diagnosis, that's problem identification, you have the exploration, the prognosis, how possible am I going to help this person? Then you have design of a solution, then you have the application, termination, because your client will not work with you forever. There are some sessions that can just be one, two, three. There are deep problems that can run into months. It can even run into years. It is determined by the gravity, the weight of the problem at hand, and more so the resources of the person that you're working with in terms of time, capacity to cope, having the finance to pay for your service. We've talked about in the last edition the first stage, which has to do with building that relationship. We call it rapport building, a working cordial relationship that brings about a therapeutic environment for a psychological buy-in on the part of your client. Today we are looking at how do you identify the problem? How do you identify the problem? As a counselor, looks like we have in the medical field, most of the time, your client comes in contact with you, they may not be able to put into exact words what they are feeling. So it is your place as a professional, when you listen, be able to understand what is said, what is left out that would have been said. Understand that your client in the first place is apprehensive, is worried, is not sure of what is going to happen, may not want to open up, may be afraid to give out certain information. This you need to understand because of what? Privacy. They want to be sure that you are the right person to actually delve into their life issues, even though you are there to help. How do you go about identifying the problem? First of all, you need to let the client tell his or her story. You don't inhibit, especially if it's a client you're meeting the first time. You don't have prior information from another therapists that try to work with them, or maybe a hospital that refer the person to you because of working, or a school, community, or even parents. So you need to allow the client talk for themselves. What you need to do is listen and be able to connect and establish the actual problem. Sometimes a client may not be able to separate the different facets of the problem. They can minimalize, that's make it just a minimum presentation. And by the time you look as a counselor, you understand that this problem is more than what the client is talking about. Take for example, a client is coming to tell you, I've been failing all my exams. Examination failure is what he presents, but you need to explore to understand what led to the failure of the examination. Is it about poor study habits? Is it about friends that are not allowing him to concentrate? Is it about poverty that you don't have the money to buy the resources? What are the things you need to explore? And by the time you explore with your client, you'll be able to have baseline. You need to have different teams around that problem and get to a point you can actually zero in and craft a real problem you can work with. Don't forget the client comes in, for example, I say, I'm failing my examinations. That failure of examination is just what the person is presenting. But the problem goes beyond that. It's not the root. It's only the result of one, two, three other issues you need to look at. You need to look at what is the root, what is the trigger, what maintains that problem, and what is that thing that can decelerate that problem. What are the resources at the person's disposal? But his own capacity, his ability that is not yet explored, his environment, the home, colleagues, even the institution is for a student. How much of the resources in the school is that person using in terms of the library, the teachers, colleagues, you name them. What are the internets? How much motivated intrinsically is this your client? This second stage is very important. Until you are able as a client, as a counselor, to explore with your clients the real problem and be able to bring it into a very manageable aspect that you can draw inference from your experience, from your theoretical models, and look at this is the aspect we are going to look at. Do you want to, first of all, help the client to have a cognitive reframing and think rationally? Is it goal setting? Is it execution? What are the things they need to do? Is it self management and time utilization? Is it study skills? Is it financial management? You need self esteem, locus of control. Does he believe that he has capacity to effect changes positively in his or her life? Or he or she believes that everything that happens has to come from outside? These are the things you need to take into consideration. Because until a problem is diagnosed properly, there is no prospect for solution. So if I can put it this way, a problem that you can identify properly is already half resolved. So the second stage is how to identify the problem and then explore it. Then you have to look at about three dimensions. You look at the time dimensions in which the experiences that the client has experienced and the influences, the challenges, how long it has gone, the plans, the goals, what are the things that he or she has in mind to do. Then you look at the feeling dimensions. This challenge that is presented before you, how does it affect the client's feeling? How does he or she feels about the problem? Is the person apprehensive? You look at the person's attitude, the value, belief. How does the person look at him or herself? Concept, the esteem. Has this problem eroded our self-esteem? Is the person feeling less human because I am in this challenge? This is very important. And then he also looked at the cognitive dimension. How is he thinking? Is the person thinking rationally? Is the person having block thinking? A problem that has become, unsurmountable, that has come to your terror, definitely one way or the other will affect the person's psyche. So you look at how does he think? Are there gaps in his cognition? And when you put all these things together, you'll be able to profile a solution. So we were looking today at the second stage of the counseling process, which is problem identifications and exploration. We call it diagnosis and then the prognosis. Look at the problem. What are the causes? What is keeping the problem? What has it done? What can it do? And then you explore it along different themes. time series, the feeling, the cognition. Look at the value system of the individual and what is the person actually believe about. And when you do that, it gives you a background how you can go back as a counselor, as a professional, and look at the theories, the therapeutic models, and the different tools you can bring in together and craft a process of remediation for the client. Not every client is the same. Some client have capacity to self-lead, so you have to work with that one differently from a client that doesn't have a capacity for self-leading. Based on your years of experience, each of these things will just become like a second nature to you. You will see the gaps and how you will stop it. So today we were talking about how to identify the problem. Like in the medical field, you do tests. So also in counseling, there will come a time you can use psychometric tests, you can use attitude tests, self-ratings tests, depending on the problem. The personality issues you're seeing, you can administer tests you know how to score and interpret. You can even call for self-descriptive narrative. The person can write something about himself. You can draw a tree of the family. You can try to see what is in the mind of the person to project. You can do all this, and it gives you a picture like a puzzle. You can fix in and see where the challenge is. So you can see why counseling is a very, very important service in a society. Until we come your way again, this is Education and Career Quadrant from Triple E Counseling Services here in Oyo Akwa State. Your host is Edeweke S, the CEO and lead counseling psychologist at Triple E Counseling Services. Our office still remains 24 IBB Avenue, Akwa Ibom State, just adjacently opposite Ibom E Library. You may reach us on triple-e.counseling@gmail.com or simply call us on 0703 188 7240. Until next week, when we bring you the third dimension of the process of counseling, we say, remain blessed.